Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Carson City Visitors Bureau Board of Directors meeting for July 10th, 2017 at 4 p.m. Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Renee Plain. Present. Jesse Dami. Here. Jonathan Bolware. Here. Sandra Nagel. Present. Karen Aboud. Here. We have a quorum.
All right, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Now we'll open up for public comments and discussion.
Hi, I'm Sharon Ross with Capital City Arts Initiative, and I want to welcome you to Tahoe Clarity, the exhibition in here that will be here through November 9th. Dylan Silver is the artist. He lives up at South Lake Tahoe, just graduated from UNR with a degree, master's in journalism, has been photographing Tahoe underwater for quite a while. So we thought it would be appropriate in the heat to have some water pictures for summer. I hope you enjoy them. We're delighted. It was fun to hang them. The essay that I gave you is for Industrial Art, our exhibition over at the courthouse that will be up through the end of September. We have manufactured items by 5 different manufacturers from Northern Nevada, Minden, Carson City, and Verdi. I hope you get a chance to go over and see. It's not a typical art show. We have manufactured things in there. So anyway, and if you have any questions, okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the show.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public comment or discussion? All right. For possible action, approval of minutes, June 6, 2017. Executive Director Review Meeting and June 12, 2017 CCV Board Meeting.
I'm going to abstain from the June 12th because I wasn't here.
Was I here June 12th? I wasn't here yet. Reminded me when I was here and not here.
I move to approve the minutes from the June 6, 2017 Executive Director Review Meeting and the June 12, 2017 CCVB Board Meeting.
We should take them separate since we have to abstain from each one.
Okay.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2017 Executive Director Review Meeting.
Individually. So why don't we go, because Karen and I weren't here, so we'll go individually. So we start with you, I guess, you're saying you're in favor?
Yes.
Aye?
Yes.
Yes, I was there for that.
Okay, all in favor? I'm losing it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, now we'll go with June 12th.
I move to approve the June 12, 2017 CCVB Board Minutes.
All right, now we can go individual on this one, because Karen and I weren't here.
Okay.
All right, motion passes with 3 yeses and 2 abstentions. All right, possible action adoption of agenda. Anybody see any reason to move the agenda? No? Okay, seeing that, we'll move on to the next item. Possible action approval of the adjusted CCVB fiscal year 2017 budget report.
Okay, in your packet, we'll go over page 2 of 5. If you see noted on the top, this is for accounting period 12 of 2017, which reflects expenses through June 30th and room revenue through May. Now, I do want you to note that this is not the end of the year fiscal report, although it does go through June. There is the possibility that you'll have some additional expenses that may come in over the next couple of weeks that are still part of fiscal year 17. But for the most part, these are very close. So continuing on, we'll go through revenues first. So once again, I want to make sure you understand, these are revenues just through May. We still have one additional month that will reflect on room revenue for the end of the fiscal year. Current fiscal year 17 actual, we're at just shy of 1.7 million with a adjusted augmented budget of 2.1 million. That's 80.8%, and I'm still very confident that we're still going to get to our projected numbers, and we're going to certainly be under our expenses, as you'll see here as we go through pages 3 and 4. Continuing down, you've got the breakouts of expendable revenue, and all that's doing is taking into account the carryover from fiscal year 16. Continuing on to page 3 of 5. The top section is your intergovernmental expenses. So that breaks out your CC interlocal agreement, which is a 1%. All of these at the end of the fiscal year, you'll see these accounted based on the final numbers for the room revenue and the final payment to both the city, Nevada Commission on Tourism, and down the line. As you can see, we've only made 30% of our payments now, but the budgeted amount of $668,104.28, it should be very close to that when we make our final payments on the expenditures. So continuing down under Visitor Bureau salaries and wages, these should be final numbers because you're not waiting on any timesheets or anything coming in. So the final numbers for salaries and wages for fiscal year 17, your bottom line is $547,904.79 with a projected and augmented budget of $582,954.39. So we came in at 94% of what we had budgeted. So that's a savings of just over $35,000. Continuing on page 2 of 5, getting into more of the heart of the expenses. I'm sorry, going back, I went backwards, sorry. Okay, going to page 4 of 5. On page 4 of 5, going down, there's only one noted in a highlighted area that exceeded the 100% of reporting year, and that was contractual agreements and services, and we knew that that was going to come in fairly close to 100%, but bottom line within professional services, we were at 81.6%, coming in at $116,688, and the augmented number was $143,000. Visitors Bureau Property Services came in at 76.1%, a little over $23,000 in difference there. Continuing to other services, which includes pretty much the heart of everything we do with our printing, advertisement, special events, and travel, came in at 64.7%. Budgeted 319, augmented at 319,924. With 206,916 actual. This is an area that you might see a few of those trailing numbers come in addition to possibly under professional services also, but I think we've had the majority of all of our contract employees and everything that we've been spending up to the last week to our augmentation before our augmentation date. Continuing down to operating supplies, 31.7%, budgeted 278,180.81. The actual fiscal year 17 at June 30th reporting was 88,284.60. Now, I do want you to note that under operating supplies 0625, that's where we've allocated that $80,000 to pay for the environmental studies and permitting for the trail system. So that's still going to be listed under those operatings, and it has not shown as an expense in the actual column. Bottom line, we're at 58.2%. With our augmented expenditures budgeted at just under $850,000, and we're at $495,646.51 on our actual. So we're still at about $355,000 under what we'd anticipated in our expenditures. And I know that's really close to what I had said when we had our augmentation. I anticipated we were at about $350,000. So we're right there. Hopefully Those numbers are solid, and we've got about 5,000 left out there, but so 355,000 coming in with additional revenue that was not spent. The back page is the worksheet for Department of Taxation. I can tell you that the same day that we had our augmentation hearing, I did get the approved augmentation numbers turned in, and it was approved by the state of Nevada. So, any questions? Okay.
Joel, I have a question. Visitors Bureau, other services,
Yeah.
our budget and projection was pretty much way off. I know we are 1 month short in expenses, but still 69.4% and 59% on the printing advertisement. Are we going to adjust the next fiscal based on this? Because that's quite a bit difference. And also the golf projects, I don't think we used any dollar in there. So maybe we can visit these 3 items when we look at the next year's
Hey,
budget.
before you answer, Joel, just to clarify, we're one month short of revenue, right? Expenses are caught up?
Yeah, correct. We're still 1 month short on revenues, and the expenses are pretty close to being final.
Okay, just
Very,
wanna make sure
very
we still
limited
have-
changes, yeah. So, yeah, we certainly will. In fact, because we have to estimate and approve our fiscal year 18 budget so early on, we did it in May. As we move forward, our first augmentation period, we will augment all of those numbers reflective on our end of the fiscal year 17. What I'm hoping is that that'll correlate to the month following our audit. So once we get our audited numbers back, then I'll take the audited numbers into the augmentation, and we'll change all of those line items based on what we actually spent in fiscal year 17. So yes, correct. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Any comments from the audience about the budget?
I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year 17 budget report as presented through June of 2017.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Motion. All right, for possible action and approval for ratification of the CCVB statement of P-card report for May 2017 totaling $18,493.82, and for the accounts payable checks from June 2017 totaling $44,434.21.
Okay, in your packet, we'll start on page 1 of 3 inside the agenda report, starting with the CCVB P-card report. This is post date between May 5th and June 2nd, 2017. Going down, first notable expense above that, 500 plus is down with the Intuit Simple View. That is the new, it's our old app, but a new company that bought out the Visit apps. And I did get a chance to look into some of the pricing structure of some of the new apps, and we're still within, if not below, some of the price when you're looking at the full functionality that we're trying to get within our app. But James is going to continue to do a little research on that just to make sure that, we're that $1,000 a month is we're within perspective of what it should cost us. So. Continuing down on that page, you got a little bit of business expense back when went through down through the coast, not only for the Epic Rides marketing, but also going over to the Skunk Train to meet with the owner-operator of the Skunk Train at the bottom. Continuing on to page 2 of 3, going down about a quarter of the way, you've got the Deerfield Media, which is the downtown marketing for segments. I think Kyle can touch on that later, but that was $28.90. And continuing down, Vital Signs, $17.75. We had to reprint the window decals. There's one at each one of your stations in addition to the back of the room. The one change that I did make this time, because we're looking at a name change, but also the fact that we've had 3 new campaigns, marketing campaigns from Ride Carson, and now we've got to Find Your Way to Carson campaign. And we've simplified it down to just saying Carson City with our logo and the Nevada, so you can see the changes. But we've been out of the window decals. The original order was 5,000, and that lasted us a little over a year and a half. So we've bought new decals. Continuing down, you've got the printer rentals and the additional image charges at the bottom. I have we'll have a change next month. We did upgrade the machine. It'll have a lower cost per copy, but it does have incredible functionality, and I'll go over a little bit of that in August, some of those changes. Continuing on to page 3 of 3. And page 3 of 3, at the top, you've got the Stith printing. That's, once again, we bought the Motor Officer Challenge shirts, the T-shirts that our Carson City Sheriff's Office Motor Challenge is used for their fundraising aspect and the event that they brought into Carson City during the Gearhead weekend. And continuing down, you've got the last one, which is a half-page ad for $6.85 in the Tahoe Weekly. And pretty much everything else is either wrapping up grants and/or normal business operations. So any questions on any of them? Okay, so continuing on, going over now the final page, which is the checks. So on your accounts payable checks, GMBay Fund 740 to 742, this is for accounting period June 1st through June 30th. Going down the list, you've got the third one down, 1250. We once again, as the Visitors Bureau, have purchased a table for the fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada as one of our stakeholders. The Carson City Squares are rent. Continuing down the list, you've got the contract employees. Those are all of the final payments for the grants. And we were able to wrap up all of the grants, submit our grant refund requests, and all of those have been received by the Nevada Commission on Tourism and approved. So continuing down, you've got the Great Basin Native American Artists Exhibition and Artist Stipends. That's the second showing that's up, and I know Mark will touch on that when he does his presentation a little bit later, a little over 2,000 there. Once again, that was a grant project also funded through Nevada Commission on Tourism. And the last two purchases over or above 1,000 was just paper for brochures. And what that is we're reprinting our visitor's guide into a rack card, so it's a 4-fold, and we've got the paper ready for that. That's a distribution of 80,000 pieces that we do through certified folder. Any questions on those expenses?
All right, any questions, further comments about this from the board? Any comments from the audience? All right, get a motion.
I move to approve the ratification of the CCVB account activity statement of P-card charges for May 2017 and the accounts payable checks for June 2017.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. For discussion and possible action, approval to rename the Carson City Visitors Bureau to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority to reflect the inclusion of the arts and culture component and branding of regional and state DMOs.
All right. So this was going to be the first part of what was also going to be the presentation on the strategic plan for the next 5 years. That we are going to bring back the strategic plan, and I'll update you on that when I get into the executive director's report. That'll come back to you in August. With that, though, I wanted to move forward because we are going into our new fiscal year. At our stakeholders meeting, which was phase 1 of 3 for our strategic planning session, in addition to talk with staff, discussion with staff, it was brought to our attention that we would be better served and better reflecting what we do and what we provide to our community with a simple name change. That name change, as you can see within your packet, is provided to you as an executive board for change upon approval. The name change that came and floated to the top through all of our creative sessions was going from what we originally were, Carson City Convention and Visitors Bureau, then renamed to Carson City Visitors Bureau, and now with the inclusion and introduction of the culture in Carson City and the culture underneath the umbrella of the Bureau, to name the Visitors Bureau, rename the Visitors Bureau, Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. The reason going with authority is the majority of the DMOs in the area use the title authority rather than a bureau. I think we are one of the only bureaus. So I like the name change. I like the suggestion that came to the forefront. If there was another name that was suggested, I'm certainly open to that, but I think that it fits well. I did a quick change of the logo of what that would look like with Culture and Tourism Authority. We would simply name that, instead of CCVB, we'd be known as the CTA. So named the Carson City CTA, Culture and Tourism Authority. So any thoughts?
I like the sound of it myself.
What do you think, Mark? I don't know if you were part of the strategic planning meetings or not, but what is your opinion on this?
I attended it. I was there, and you know, my skin's in on the game, and so I'm definitely behind it. I think that, you know, every day the door opens at the visitor center, there's people wanting to live a day of someone's life here in Carson City, and that, you know, looking at this on a contemporary point of view, it involves arts and culture. I think, you know, history, arts and culture, and our outdoors are the three selling points for Carson City, and I think this will help those three things work in tandem.
You know, to add to that, over the course of the last several months, I've had an opportunity to attend several cultural events in the northern Nevada region with Mark. And when Mark introduces himself, or I introduce Mark to the northern Nevada arts and culture scene, introducing him as the arts director working for the Visitors Bureau just didn't seem to have the strength that it deserves, nor did it have the tie to what he's providing to our community. So I would definitely think the inclusion of the arts and culture component is the primary reason for the change, but I certainly like the sound of the Culture and Tourism Authority.
And if we just, you know, look across the street to the state office, it follows in the same manner, where tourism merged with cultural affairs about 5 years ago.
Well, we thought it was so important that we raised room taxes to support adding an arts and culture position. And it seems that culture recognition and events and programs and initiatives are certainly a part of who we are now. So, I mean, the name seems to coincide with the recent direction that we have taken. So with that, I seem to support it.
So what will happen today is you will make the recommendation and the approval for the name change at your level. Then I will be taking it with Iris to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors then will make the final name change based on the approval of your behalf. Okay.
I have a question, Joel. In the recommended board action, you have said create consistency with other regional destination marketing organizations. Is there any other regional visitors authority that have a culture as part of their name in our area?
No, that consistency, other than the state level, they've added culture to their name. The rest of them are just using authority rather than bureau. So that would create the consistency as the authority title. Okay.
The authority title and not the culture title, right? Okay.
So what do you guys think? All right, any more comments? Any comments from the audience about this? All right, I guess we're ready to go.
I move to approve the rename of the Carson City Visitors Bureau to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority to reflect the inclusion of the arts and culture component and branding of regional and state DMOs.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 10, for discussion of possible action, approval to amend the CCVB, which we won't be saying that too much longer, Employee Benefit Mutual. Yeah, I know. I just got this down, Joel. Approval to amend the CCVB Employee Benefit Manual to reflect the changes approved by the Carson City Board of Supervisors July 1st, 2013. The fiscal impact will be based on the city's cost under contract at the time of separation of employment. Current contract 7/1/17 to 6/30/18. Retiree with Medicare, $454.22. Retiree plus spouse with Medicare, $925.03. Retiree without Medicare, $597.17. And retiree plus spouse without Medicare, $1,189.54. Explain to us, Joel.
All right,
what that
so looking back historically, the Visitors Bureau, in utilizing the agreement with the City of Carson City, has provided its employees the same benefits, mirroring that of the unclassified employees working for the City of Carson City. Looking back, it was actually November 21st of 2013, the Carson City Board of Supervisors did provide the unclassified employees this addition to their benefit package. There was also a change June 2nd of 2016, but it was reflective of a change in the pay range for the unclassified employees, but that's never been a part of what we were providing through the Visitors Bureau. So what I'm proposing is that we adopt and mirror the same changes that the Board of Supervisors provided the unclassified employees of the City of Carson City, which is providing the medical insurance coverage for employees with extended years of service. So 15 to 19 years, the employee is afforded, and or spouse or dependents is afforded 75% and 25% reflectively. For an employee that has had 20-plus years of service without a break in service, receives 90% for the employee, 50% for the spouse or dependent. The only exception that I've included that I'm asking you to do is an employee that has had the service with the city, no break in service, transfers employment to the CCVB, receive the same benefits as if there was no break in service. So outside of that, it mirrors all of the existing benefits that are applied to the unclassified employees.
So just for clarification, define unclassified employee.
So the reason why unclassified, what they use with the city system is classified and unclassified. When you're a classified employee, you are still somewhat at will, but you are an hourly employee, and you also then can be part of the Carson City Employees Association, which is the union that protects the employees. When you become a supervisor or you are unclassified based on the scope of your work or the extent of hours, or the fact that we are not city employees, we don't fall under the opportunity of being a classified employee. So all of the employees of the Visitors Bureau would then, by definition, be an unclassified employee. So there are no classified employees. Basically, with us, we're at will. We work for you as a board. The employees work underneath the supervision of the executive director. They're all at will, so all of the employees would fall under the unclassified. Now, on ours, when you see in the definition of administrative and support staff, that kind of breaks out then the same level, although support staff is not afforded an employees association as classified employees are with the city. So the administrative positions would be those that supervise and those that don't work a standard schedule. So that would fall under myself, Chris, Mark, and Kyle would all be administrative positions. No set hours, quite often asked and expected more than 40 hours, and varied work schedules. Support staff are those full-time employees that do have a set schedule and work more than 1,039.
So, Joel, to me, when you talk a little bit about the line in the agenda item that talks about the fiscal impact will be based on, we spent some time talking about that.
So when you look at the cost, the fiscal impact, if an employee was to retire, so this would be just upon retirement, the fiscal impact would then come into play where instead of paying what is now 100% of the medical cost. Upon that retirement, the Visitors Bureau would, up until the age eligible for Medicare, so at 65, the Bureau would pay 90%. So when you look at, in the title, you look at the dollar amounts. So the fiscal impact would be 90% of what the cost is. The cost listed for a retiree without Medicare is listed at $597, and, retiree without Medicare, $597.17. So the Bureau would be responsible for 90% of that payment. The retiree would have to pick up the other 10%. When they become Medicare eligible, that then changes to $454.22. At the time that they're also listed into Medicare, that drops down to 50% of the coverage rather than the 90%. So once they are enrolled and part of the Medicare, it drops to 50% coverage. So it mirrors exactly what the employees of the city have been provided. Now, that rate may change if at any time, if you opted out or if the city opted out of providing this as a benefit, there is a clause that then it automatically drops down at that time to the 50%, and that's listed on the inside in the description. So going back and looking at some of the original testimony in the November 21st meeting with the Carson City Board of Supervisors, what you were looking at was an opportunity. I think that when you have top-ended employees that have been serving 20-plus years, they're typically at the highest part of their salary. And this was an opportunity, while not going after or trying to do anything with their PERS retirement or any buyouts. There were, at one time, they were buying people out and buying up to 5 years of service, and it really wasn't received well. This was an opportunity to have people at the top end of their career retire. You were afforded the opportunity of savings by bringing somebody in at the bottom of the pay scale. And I think that's where although there is a fiscal impact for paying for the insurance for that retired employee, you then make that up on the bottom end by bringing somebody in near the bottom of the pay scale.
Joel, have we done the fiscal impact? How much it's going to impact?
You know, we haven't, because it's only going to be dependent on when an employee retires and what the coverage is at the time. In fact, if you look at the differences between what it would have been if I had submitted this to you in June versus July, the costs actually have gone down for the fiscal year 18 for the coverages versus what they would have been in June. In fact, I think it's gone down $80 to $90 for the retiree without Medicare. So it will fluctuate, so we'll have to look at the fiscal impact. But I needed to put it in now so that you had an assessment of what it would be or what it could be.
Another question is, will this number impact how much that employee was making at the time of retirement, or this is a fixed number for everybody?
No, what it'll be is let's say if an employee was to retire with 20 years of service, 90% of what the current rate for it to be. So right now you'd be paying 90%, and you would pay, depending on the age of that retiree, if they were 60, you'd pay for 5 years at the rate of $554, and then it would drop 50% or whatever it would be based on as a Medicare eligible. So it's really, there's so many variables in it. It depends on the age of the retiree and what the current rate is. But if it was today, the fiscal impact would be 90% of the 554, and whatever the variable is of how many years they are to their Medicare eligible age, that would be the other variable.
So, but all we are doing is we are pretty much matching the classified with the unclassified employees in terms of benefits after retirement.
Yeah, so what we're doing is mirroring exactly what the city's doing with the of-like positions. We should have brought this in there shortly after the 2013 to make the changes, because we've always mirrored the benefits that the city employees receive. So we're a few years late in it, but there hasn't been any changes to what they approved November 21st, 2013.
So what it mirrors, it's the same number of years, right? 15 years for 75%, 20 years for 90%. All that is exactly the same as what the classified receive at the city level.
Correct. Everything is exactly the same as written and approved by the Board of Supervisors. The only exception to that is noted on the front page, and I'll read it. The only exception to the CCVB employee benefits policies and procedures mirroring that of the cities is the addition of a CCVB employee or employees who have transferred employment from the city of Carson City with no break in service or retain their years of service. So that's the only exception that I'm asking to be approved, because they certainly wouldn't have had it in their language.
So does this require, I'm not familiar with does this require that someone take Medicare? So I know a lot about Medicare, but this plan will cover folks even if they decide not to go with Medicare. So the employee has a choice of whether I enroll in Medicare or I don't. Either way, this health benefit goes into effect, right? Didn't I see something on there without Medicare?
Yeah, so what'll happen is, let's say if you have a retiree who becomes eligible age Medicare at 65 now, or if it goes to 70, if they opt out, and I don't know how it works either, but I know in the wording that if they're age eligible for Medicare, and at that time, it drops 50% of what you're providing as a retiree benefit. So then if they opt out and they go a second route, let's say if they have other medical insurance at the time, then all you're doing is subsidizing that medical insurance 50% of what you currently would have been doing by contract. It becomes secondary.
Any other questions about this? I think it's a good thing. It's a good program. Probably should have had it in place a while back. All right, any more comments from the board? Any comments from the public about this agenda item? No? All right.
I move to amend the current Carson City Visitors Bureau Employee Benefits and Policies and Procedures Manual as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, non-action items. You're up, Joel.
Right. So first we'll go over, and you received at each one of your stations, and I think that everyone in the audience has a copy of it. If you don't, I can get it to you. It's the lodging report for May 2017. So going down first, doing a comparison between 2017, 2016 May, top 5 properties had an increase of 24.2%. That's an increase of just over $240,000. Top 13 properties, that also includes the top 5, had an increase of $310,553, and that's an increase of 21.2% over the same time period in 2016. The one decrease was in the RV. RV had a decrease of $161.82. And before we continue on, I'll kind of track you through that, because it gets a little confusing until you get to the end. If you follow the RVs over to average daily rate, the average daily rate dropped also for the RVs. Continuing down now to RevPAR. RevPAR, though, you see an increase of 139.1% for the RVs. And the reason that that's happened is going back and looking at what's changed between 2016 and 17, and I want to get my notes here for you. The difference was in 2017, the total available spots for RVs was 1,853. So with that, you had 4,450 available spots in 2016. So that's why you see such a significant difference. Oh, good. Okay. Well, I didn't even have it. I had notes. It's on the sheet. But you look at the difference between the available spots, and that's why you see such a huge change in the RevPAR. Now, going back up to the total and remaining properties, total increase was just shy of 21%. At 20.95%, that's an increase of $319,152.34 over May for all properties, coming in at $1,842,525.50. In comparison to another legislative year, you can see the The 2015, we're at 1.4 million, so we're, just over $400,000 above the same time period in a legislative year of 2015. Continuing over to average daily rate, you can see we saw increases of 4.7% in the top 5 properties. Top 13 properties, including the top 5, saw an increase of 2.9%. The average daily rate for the top 5 properties went up to $107.10, and top 13 properties was at $80.70. Continuing now, looking at calendar year and fiscal year comparisons, 2017 to 16. Calendar year, so this would be January through May. We're up 1.4 million. That's an increase of 24.89% in the first 5 months of the year. Fiscal year from last July through May, you're an increase of 2.2 million, almost 2.3 million. That's an increase of 15.59%. Doing the comparison also from 16 to 15, you can see that we were up marginally last year in compared to 15, but when you look at the increases between 17 and 15, just below that, you're pretty consistent with 27.28% calendar year and 22.73% up on fiscal year. Trailing 12 up 15.15%, and trailing 12 in comparison once again to the LCB year up 22.79%. We've already covered the RV RevPAR, but we saw increases of 23 and 27% respectively for top 5 and top 13 properties. Total RevPAR was up 40.2%, coming in at $49.31. So revenue per available room, that's up from $35.16 in 2016 May. On the back, you've got the occupancy, and once again, you can see the differences in occupancy. We're at 75.4% for top 5 properties, 17. Same top 5 properties were at 64.1% occupancy for May of 2016. Top 13 properties, does include top 5, was at 68.6% in 17, up from 55.4% in 2016. Bottom line, all properties, we were at 63.7% and 46.69% in 2016. So once again, we're seeing very strong numbers, being very consistent, even leading into hopefully what we're going to see in June, which we know was not only a week of legislature, but amazing events. And looking at some of the room rates, I think the room rates are going to be absolutely skyrocketing for June, so I can't wait to do the end of the year reports in June. And what a stellar year. Absolutely amazing. So any questions on the lodging report? Okay.
Only one concern I have, Joel, is on the RevPAR side. We know the top 13 were 27%, but the RV and the remaining properties had a huge jump in RevPAR. So that 40% is not really the right number. Maybe down the road we might want to think, if somebody's looking at it on a market basis, that's not the true RevPAR gain. It's more in high 20s than low 40s. Just something to look at.
Yeah, and I agree, because I think we're going to be looking at, both Chris and I were talking today when we were looking at the variables, when you had decreases in revenue, decreases in occupancy, but the available rooms have gone down significantly because of how many 28-day plus stay. We're going to find a way to break that out in the reporting when we're looking at the RevPAR, at least for the RVs and the additional properties. We have to, because it creates an imbalance. Okay. Okay, continuing on, talking about the strategic plan update. So I have been able to put together the 2 parts of the strategic plan. I was hoping to bring that to you as a final draft for approval. The one element that I'm still going to need is I'd like to get all of the input, the SWOT analysis from you as board members. So if I can get that over the next 2 weeks, I will bring that back as a final draft approval for the 2018 5-year strategic plan, and we'll bring that back in August. I can tell you that looking at the input from the employees in comparison to the stakeholders, we're definitely heading in the right direction based on, I think, what you'll mirror in phase 3 of that versus what the employees certainly added and defined a little bit more direction in how we achieve some of those goals that were listed and identified as potential trends by the stakeholders. So we'll bring that back in August with a detailed report. Continuing, grant updates. All right, so once again, all of the fiscal year 17 grants, so we did our submittal for reimbursement on the costs for those grants, and those were accepted by Nevada Commission on Tourism. We did receive 4 different grant awards, and going down the Nevada Single Track Mountain Bike Adventure, excuse me, we've talked about that. We did receive $10,000, so that'll be a $20,000 project, and that is showcasing all of the single track mountain bike opportunities for visitors coming across Highway 50 through our Eastern Gateway. We'll be working directly with Ely, Eureka, and Austin, and then at the end of the project, reaching down to the mountain bike trail systems, the $1.4 million they're investing in Caliente. Kyle's already went out and met with a few of the groups along Highway 50. They are very excited that we reached out and are doing a statewide grant, as is Nevada Commission on Tourism. So I think it's going to be a great rewarding and certainly see a lot of return on the investment that we're putting out. The Reimagined Space project you're very familiar with, looking at one and just yet another partner, and Nevada Commission on Tourism became that partner. They're going to provide additional money for marketing the Reimagined Space, and that is the vacant storefronts throughout the redevelopment district. So you'll start to see that play out throughout the fall. Nevada Magazine advertisement, we'll have $10,000 placed in Nevada Magazine advertisement, and that may coincide quite a bit with what we're doing with the Nevada Day this year, now showcasing, and I don't want to take any thunder from Mar, but we've got the celebration of arts and entertainment for the Nevada Day Parade, so we'll be working with Nevada Magazine quite a bit on that. The Carson City Ghost Walk video, this will be adding the video component to both the mobile app and the website for the Ghost Walk. This will showcase several of the locations. It'll give visitors an opportunity to go out, view the video, either through social media or website, and also through the Ghost Walk site of at least 4 or 5 of the locations. And that'll be a $10,000 project. Any questions on the grants? Okay. Now we'll move on to the marketing update, and I did ask, not knowing how long we would go tonight, I asked both Kyle and Mark to be a little brief because we are following up right after this with the Cultural Commission meeting. Kyle will be coming back next month with the end of the fiscal year, full blown out, this is what we've done, this is what we've accomplished speech. So thank you.
Cool. So yeah, like Jill said, I'll have a full end of fiscal marketing report for you guys next week. That'll also include the Epic Rides marketing impact and everything like that. It's been less than a month, so we're still getting stuff back from them, but really looking forward to kind of reporting the full impact of that event. But in the meantime, what I've been working on is kind of taking what some of the suggestions through that stakeholders plan that kind of came out in regards to communication. And so some of the things that we're working on kind of immediately is getting a stakeholders weekly email that goes out. So by the stakeholders, I mean hotels, supervisors, department heads, business owners, things like that. And just have a weekly email blast that goes out and being like, hey, this is what's up for the next 2 weeks. This is what's coming, and just trying to take a more direct line of communication. So that was one of the suggestions that we feel like we can pick off pretty quickly. The other one, of course, is the calendar. So I've been working with James on trying to display or how to display a lot more events in a better way than how they're displayed right now. So I mean, when days get filled up with events, some kind of disappear. So we're just looking at what the app's capabilities are with that. With all the grants being done from last year, we have a lot of videos, and so looking for a new way to display that video content through web sliders and things like that. And then other than that, we've got the fair coming up, and we've got Jazz and Beyond coming up, at the end of July and beginning of August. So you're going to see some enhanced marketing with that. We've got a meeting with the Nevada Appeal to see the results of the first few weeks of the remarketing campaign. So I'll have all that in the report in August when we come back. So thanks.
And we will stay with, Kyle, do you have any updates on events?
Just that we've got the fair and the Jazz and Beyond coming up, and this is a big week for music, so we all know what's happening this week.
And once again, the final fiscal year report next month will do a kind of a recap of all of those events. And update from the Cultural Commission, Mark.
Hello. So, in following last week's new tradition, I'm going to present to you a slideshow of what I've been working on since our last meeting. So I visited the Fire Museum recently, took a look at their logbook, and noticed that people from all over the world just this month had been there. Portugal, Germany, even our neighbors, Idaho. They do not have any pamphlet or brochure advertising the museum. And we don't in the office, and so there's an opportunity there for us to use our content writers, photographers, to put something together to really advertise, what's here in our backyard. Of course, June 16th was the Stewart Indian Powwow. We held a reception. It was the part 2 of the current show in the Visitors Bureau. This is at Stewart Indian School. It's a fantastic juxtaposition of contemporary work and artifacts from the history of the school itself. These works are now, on display over the weekend for the powwow. They're now displayed at the Visitors Bureau, everything from regalia to painting, printmaking. Again, here in our backyard at CC Iron and Mound House, this is artist Kate Raudenbush, and you might know her work. It's a large metal work outside of the Nevada Museum of Art in Reno. This is her working on the USA Parkway Commission. I think it's like I want to say 40-foot tall sculpture that she's working on out there. Interesting to know what's happening in our backyard, as Joel and I were just looking for fabricators for the bike rack competition. She in turn introduced me and invited me to Buffalo Creek Residency. This is in Gardnerville at the foot of Job's Peak. This gentleman is starting just this year an international residency program open to three-dimensional sculptors, bringing them in from all over the world to live at this incredible state-of-the-art facility. Again, this is another opportunity where these artists are coming here for a couple months at a time to either bring them into Carson City for events or for us to have tours there. On June 21st, I think I recall Supervisor Barrett asking me if I was going to be writing grants for other organizations, and I said I'm not a grant writer, but since my skin's in on the game of this year's Nevada Day parade, and the theme is arts and culture, arts and entertainment, I did write a grant on behalf of the Nevada Day committee to market a first annual Cultural Commission costume ball, and so we did get that grant. Meeting our neighbors, I met my arts and culture colleagues from Reno and from Sparks. We took a tour of Virginia City, meeting Erica Perry, who's on the far right. She's the director of the St. Mary's Art and Residency Program. The Visitors Bureau there was kind enough to take us on a little tour of the train. We started talking about how there's this train and that train, and I said, you know what, how about Soul Train? And so, it was kind of a funny idea, but the longer we spent that afternoon together, the more really thought that this could be a possibility. And of course, Sly and the Family Stone were on Soul Train back in '74. And so, Stephen Saylor attended our last Cultural Commission meeting. And he said, what we need is a ghost train. So we have something that's fantastic there, and I think just kind of introducing new ideas might bring some benefits. So I'm actually going to put together a proposal for Joel and Denny, and we'll see if there's any appetite for that going forward. Again, we finished up with the tour of St. Mary's residency program here. It's a juxtaposition of old quilts and furniture, but contemporary art. This is a fantastic facility. Should you'd be searching for some, looking for like committee getaways or other rental spaces, they certainly have that there. We wrapped up with a tour of the 4th Ward School and Museum. This is in their attic. They're actually having those school desks are in the attic from, I think, 1910, and I was asked to be one of the artists to decorate these desks for a fundraiser later on this year. Of course, July 6th, just the other day, was the opening of the Evolution of Burning Man. As I've mentioned before, I've been working forward on producing sort of a stay-and-play package for that Friday, October 27th, before Nevada Day Parade for an evening event. Michael, one of the founders of Burning Man, has agreed to be our Grand Marshal of the parade. Will Roger has agreed to be another parade dignitary. This is a museum. This is at the Nevada Museum of Art, and there's Michael's clothing. Here is Crimson Roses. These are in vitrines, on pedestals, and here's Will Rogers' blue jean jacket. And so these are the people that are going to be here in Carson City, and this show is actually traveling to the Smithsonian after this. So there's a little update on what I've been working on the past month. Oh, I'd like also to, let's see, just looking at my notes here. On June 23rd, I got good news from the governor's office saying that I was appointed to the Nevada Arts Council. So that's a 7-member board, and it's the first time in 30 years that someone has been on there from Carson City. So that's good news, being that it's been around for 50 years. That's it. Thank you.
All right, so last is the future agenda items and upcoming meetings. So on future agenda items, once again, we'll do a extensive end-of-the-year marketing report during your August meeting. Be bringing back the strategic plan. If I can get the SWOT analysis that I sent to you guys, preferably by the end of next week, that'll give me enough time to put that together. And then I am going to, as part of that strategic plan and the stakeholders meeting, we've mentioned several times that there is a need, an unmet need for a community calendar. One of the things that we've faced is obviously we haven't added staff as we've moved forward, and we're doing more and providing more outside of adding staff for our arts director. But in administrative support, I think we are definitely the agency that should be providing that community calendar. In order to do that, I'm going to bring back a proposal in August of hiring a probably somewhere around a $10 to $12 an hour employee that will handle the community calendar, working directly with Kyle. We'll also take on the printing component. We've stretched James very thin. And sometimes with that, we've fallen short on our own community calendar and the content management that's his primary focus. So I'll bring back a proposal, and hopefully we'll be able to work through that at the August meeting.
And Joel, it won't be like the chamber calendar, will it? Because it needs to have a little more punch to it in terms of promoting arts and culture and events in this community.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this has to be an all-inclusive, comprehensive, filtered, blowing up, where everything in this community that happens needs to be on this calendar. We're also going to, based on some of the input that came from the stakeholder strategic planning session, this isn't just going to be a calendar. This is going to be a social media campaign where you can go as a resident, as a visitor, as an event promoter, and you can put everything you want out into the social media world with one site where everyone can get information on events. And it creates that ongoing conversation. So this is going to include everything. Now with that, you have to provide filters so that if somebody wants to come in and they're looking for just a community support type of a meeting, they can filter in that onto their calendar. But it also gives a visitor an opportunity, because we can't lose sight that our #1 target market is visitors. So everything that relates to a visitor will be the primary filter, but you can add every type of event throughout the entire community. Yeah, no limitations.
Just from a restaurant standpoint and visitors coming in, I can't tell you how many people, and our own employees, they want to know what's going on in town. And so I become the community calendar. But it would be nice to have something that we could refer them to such that, they can look up every event that's going on that they can participate in.
No, I think you're right. Right now, when I'm looking for events, there are a few people that are doing a really good job in the community that provide a little bit of information about particular types of events, but there's not the one that brings all of that together. We're going to be that one. So I'll bring a proposal to you, but it's also going to create a lot of productivity and allow us to move forward quickly with our content management, with our website, and our own app development. Especially with some of the projects we'll be working on with the Blue Line. So I'll bring that back under future agenda items at the August meeting. Outside of that, the next meeting, once again, that August meeting will be August 14th for the Carson City Visitors Bureau Board of Directors. And the next Carson City Cultural Commission meeting after tonight will be September 11th.
All right, thank you, Joel. Last time for public comment, discussion, anything? All right. Board comments or announcements?
I just have a comment for Kyle. Kyle, next time, can you please bring us any data on how many new users are installing our app and how many are active users? We want to see what's really it's doing out there. And also social media update maybe.
Oh, no, totally. That would the plan for the whole comprehensive thing will be in August. I think last time we talked about the app, when we switched over to Simple View, we lost all the data from the old hosting. So it is a couple months later than that. So there's enough data now to report on. So.
All right, any other comments? All right, for possible action to adjourn? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.